The date is circled, Stamford Bridge is ready. And for the first time in a long time, Chelsea Football Club walk into a cup quarter-final, not as the Hunters, but as a team desperately in need of something to hold on to. 4 consecutive defeats. That is the reality right now at Stamford Bridge. 4 straight losses across all competitions for the first time in 33 years. Let that number sit with you for a moment. 33 years, that is not a rough patch. That is a structural collapse happening in real time. And the manager tasked with stopping the bleeding, Rosenior, is only 3 months into the job and already standing in the fire. The Champions League campaign is over. Paris Saint-Germain ended that dream, and not gently. The Premier League is threatening to fall apart at the worst possible moment. A squad assembled at extraordinary financial cost, one of the most expensively built rosters in the history of English football, is currently sitting outside the top 5 in the table with 7 games remaining. And so we arrive here, the Football Association Cup, the oldest cup competition in world football. And right now, for Chelsea Football Club, it might be the last remaining chance at silverware this season. Their opponents on this occasion are Port Vale, a club from League One. A club currently sitting rock bottom of League One, a club that, according to all the data and all the logic, is heading for relegation from that division. And yet here they stand in a quarter-final, in their first quarter-final in 73 years, because that is the magic and the madness of this competition. Welcome to Maya on Chelsea. Sit down, because today we are breaking down everything that is happening at this football club right now, and none of it is simple. Before we go deeper, let us be absolutely clear about what is actually at stake for Chelsea in this fixture. If you think this is just another cup game, you are misreading the situation entirely. The evidence suggests that this Football Association Cup run has become the emotional anchor of Chelsea's entire season. The Premier League has become unpredictable and difficult. The Champions League is gone. The only remaining path to a trophy, the only remaining route to finishing this season with something meaningful in their hands, runs directly through this competition. And the opponent is a League One side staring at relegation. If Chelsea fail here, the conversation about Rosenior'S position becomes almost impossible to manage. The pressure on this club's leadership, on the players, on the entire project reaches a level that cannot be ignored. The reality for Chelsea is that winning comfortably is not enough. They need to win convincingly. They need to show that the identity of this squad still exists, that the talent is still there, that the problems are fixable. Port Vale have beaten Sunderland in the 5th round to reach this stage. That is not nothing. That is a real scalp. And their presence here is a genuine story. But the situation is clear. Chelsea at home at Stamford Bridge against the bottom club in League One have no margin for anything other than a professional, dominant performance. If you want analysis like this every single week on everything happening at Stamford Bridge, hit that subscribe button right now and join the Maya on Chelsea community. We break down every layer of this club so you never miss what actually matters. The FA Cup quarter-final. Let us start with the fixture itself and what it tells us about where this club currently stands. Rosenior has made it clear that he intends to field as close to a first-choice lineup as he possibly can for this match. That decision speaks volumes. A manager who is under serious pressure does not rotate lightly against lower league opposition when a trophy is within reach. He is going all in. He has to. Joao Pedro is the name at the centre of everything. The Brazilian forward has scored 18 goals this season. 8 he struck in the 5th round win at Wrexham, and he arrives into this quarter-final as Chelsea's most dangerous and most consistent attacking weapon. The situation is that no other player in this squad has carried the offensive burden the way Pedro has done throughout this campaign. And what makes the Pedro story even more compelling is the context around his form. Rosenior has spoken openly about having difficult conversations with the striker early in his tenure. That honesty from a manager is rare, and the evidence suggests those conversations worked. Pedro has responded not just with performances, but with goals. Under Rosenior, there has been a visible shift in his sharpness, his positioning, and his willingness to work hard in both directions. Alan Shearer, one of the greatest goal scorers in Premier League history, has named Pedro in his Premier League Team of the Season for the official Premier League socials. That is a significant recognition. Shearer selected 4 Arsenal players and 3 Manchester City players alongside Pedro, which tells you something important about where the power currently sits in English football. But Pedro is in that conversation. He belongs in that list, and that is no small thing for a player in his first season at the club. It is now clear that without Pedro's contributions, Chelsea's Premier League season would look dramatically worse than it already does. Only Erling Haaland, Igor Thiago and Antoine Semenyo have scored more league goals than him this season. 3 players. That is the company he is keeping. Now back to Port Vale and what they represent in this quarter-final. The reality for Vale is that this run has been the one bright light in what is otherwise an extremely difficult season. Rock bottom of League One, heading for the second tier of English football below that division. And yet, here they stand at Stamford Bridge, their first quarter-final appearance in 73 years. The head-to-head history between these two clubs tells a story that feels almost ancient. The two clubs have met on 14 previous occasions, with the last encounter taking place in 1929. 1929. The historical record shows Chelsea hold the advantage, with 7 wins to Vale's 4 across those 14 meetings. But historical records from nearly a century ago do not define what happens on a football pitch on this particular Saturday. What does define it is quality. Chelsea's squad was assembled at staggering financial cost, Port Vale are bottom of League One. The gap in resources, in quality, in squad depth is not a gap you can close with heart and determination alone. You can make it uncomfortable, you can create moments, but over 90 minutes at Stamford Bridge, the weight of quality should tell. The question for Chelsea is not whether they win, it is how they win. Can they be convincing? Can they be clinical? Can they show the kind of dominant football that justifies the investment in this squad? That is the real examination this fixture represents. Chelsea's recent form makes for uncomfortable reading. A 3-0 loss to Everton in the Premier League, a 3-0 defeat to Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League, a 1-0 loss to Newcastle in the Premier League. Before that, a 5-2 humiliation in Paris. Only the Wrexham win in the 5th round of this very competition offered any relief. 4 defeats in a row, the first time that has happened in 33 years. Port Vale's recent form shows a team that has struggled similarly, though in a completely different context. A 4-0 loss to Wycombe, a 1-0 loss to Doncaster, a 3-2 defeat to Blackpool. Sandwiched between those losses are a narrow 1-0 win over Bolton and a goalless draw with Huddersfield. This is a team fighting for survival in League One and losing that fight. The momentum of this Chelsea squad against Port Vale should carry the day. But momentum at this club right now feels fragile, and that makes even this fixture carry more weight than it should. The Valentin Barco signing. Now let us move to the transfer news that arrived this weekend, because this story has layers that deserve proper analysis. Chelsea have completed a deal to sign Valentin Barco. That is confirmed. Journalist Augusto Cesar has reported on this with full detail, stating that everything is agreed and the Argentine will join the club in June. This is not a rumour, this is a completed deal. The signing is done. The player arrives in the summer. Here is what makes this story particularly interesting. Barco currently plays for Strasbourg, and Strasbourg, as most Chelsea followers will know, is part of Blueco, the same ownership group that controls Chelsea Football Club. This is the same model that was used to sign Giovanni Quenda and Dario Asugo from Sporting approximately 1 year ago. Blueco operate a network of clubs, and that network allows them to identify, develop, and then bring players to Stamford Bridge when the time is right. The situation is that Barco has earned this move through performance. His form at Strasbourg has been excellent, so excellent, in fact, that one of the biggest clubs in European football came calling. Bayern Munich wanted Valentin Barco. Let that register properly. The German giants, who are among the favourites to win the Champions League, identified this player as a serious target, and Chelsea beat them to his signature. Journalist Augusto Cesar described Barco as one of the best Argentine players today, a player who has shown he has what it takes for the highest level. He specifically highlighted Barco's quality and personality as attributes that make him a serious candidate for the 2026 World Cup squad. Originally a left-back, Barco has developed his game at Strasbourg and has been regularly deployed in the centre of midfield. That versatility is precisely the kind of profile Chelsea are targeting, a player who can operate in multiple positions, a player who is young, developing and hungry, a player who has performed at the highest level available to him and earned a step up. It is now clear that this signing has been planned carefully. Chelsea pushed hard during the most recent international break to get this deal over the line, and it is now confirmed. The timing of that push is deliberate. With uncertainty in the midfield, with questions about the future of key players in that position, Chelsea moved decisively to ensure they have quality arriving in the summer. And that leads us directly into the most difficult conversation happening at this football club right now, the Enzo Fernandez crisis. The Enzo Fernandez situation is one that demands honest and precise analysis, because the facts here are serious and the implications for Chelsea this summer are significant. The reality for the club is that Fernandez has been sanctioned, not transferred, not loaned, sanctioned. The club took the decision to discipline their own midfielder during the international break after comments he made about his future became impossible to ignore. Those comments made publicly suggested a desire to play for Real Madrid. At Stamford Bridge, that landed like a grenade. Liam Rosenior confirmed the sanction himself. Fernandez is unavailable for the matches against Port Vale and Manchester City. The club made a deliberate and firm decision to exclude him from those squads. That is not a manager leaving a player out for tactical reasons. That is a club sending a message both to the player and to the outside world that no individual is bigger than the institution. The evidence suggests that this situation has been building for some time. Fernandez has not yet signed a new deal with Chelsea. That conversation has been hanging over the club for a period of time without resolution. And then during an international break, he chose to make public statements that pointed toward Real Madrid. The club's response was immediate and decisive. Now, here is what this means in the broader context of Chelsea's current situation. The midfield question at Stamford Bridge is now the central football conversation heading into the summer window. With Fernandez's future unclear, with his contract situation unresolved, and with a very public disciplinary action now on record, the probability of him remaining at the club next season has to be examined carefully. The evidence available does not allow for a definitive answer on that. What is clear is that the relationship between player and club has been damaged publicly, and those situations rarely heal quietly. And this is where the Barco signing becomes even more strategic. Chelsea did not wait for the Fernandez situation to resolve itself before moving in the transfer market. They identified a versatile midfielder, they competed with Bayern Munich for his signature, they won that competition and they locked in his arrival for June. That is forward planning. That is a club preparing for multiple outcomes. The irony of the moment is not lost on anyone paying close attention. Chelsea are about to walk out at Stamford Bridge for a Football Association Cup quarter-final without one of their most prominent and highest-profile midfielders, a player signed at enormous cost, a player who, under Enzo Maresca and in better periods of his Chelsea career, has shown genuine quality at the highest level. He will not be on the pitch. He will not even be in the building in a playing capacity. And yet the analysis here does not stop at sympathy for Chelsea's situation. The situation is that the club took the harder decision. The easier path would have been to include Fernandez, manage the conversation privately and focus on the cup quarter-final. Instead, they drew a very public line, and that line sends a message to every player in that dressing room about what is expected and what will not be tolerated. Moises Caicedo, Reece James and Fernandez were all left out of Alan Shearer's Premier League Team of the Season, despite what the analysis suggests have been strong individual contributions in certain periods. Shearer chose Pedro and moved on. That tells you something about how the outside world is viewing Chelsea's individual performers right now. The collective is struggling, but there are individuals carrying real quality, and losing Fernandez, even temporarily, removes one of those individuals from the equation at a critical moment. What this week means for Chelsea. Let us now zoom out and look at the complete picture, because the individual stories we have covered today are all connected. Chelsea are at a crossroads, not in a dramatic or exaggerated sense, in a practical, factual football sense. The Premier League season is not finished. There are 7 games remaining. The evidence suggests a top 5 finish is still achievable, which at this stage of the season, given what has happened, would represent something positive. But it requires consistency that this squad has not shown in recent weeks. The Champions League is gone. Paris Saint-Germain ended that. A 5-2 defeat in Paris followed by a 3-0 loss at home. The aggregate scoreline tells the full story. That European campaign is over. The Football Association Cup is alive. Chelsea are in a quarter-final at home against lower league opposition. Win this and a semi-final at Wembley awaits. Win that and a final follows. It is now clear that this cup run represents the most direct path to a trophy this season, and Liam Rosenior knows it. His decision to play a near full-strength lineup confirms it. The summer transfer window is already taking shape. Valentin Barco is confirmed and arriving in June. His profile, versatile, young, capable at the highest level, fits exactly what Chelsea need to build toward. And the Fernandez situation means that the midfield rebuild, whether or not Fernandez stays, is already being planned. Liam Rosenior himself is under pressure that will not disappear after one win. 3 months into the job, 4 consecutive defeats in the rearview mirror. The scrutiny is real and it will continue. But the evidence also suggests that some of his decisions, particularly around Pedro, have produced genuine results. The Barco signing shows the club is backing him in the market, and his willingness to discipline Fernandez shows a manager who is not afraid to make difficult choices. Port Vale, standing across from Chelsea in this quarter-final, represents everything the Football Association Cup stands for: the underdog, the romantic storyline. The club playing the biggest game in their recent history while fighting for survival in a lower division. They beat Sunderland to get here. That was not luck. That was a real performance in a real game. But the reality for Port Vale is that they face a wall of quality this weekend. Joao Pedro with 18 goals, a squad built at extraordinary expense, a manager desperate for a win, Stamford Bridge in front of them. Their journey in this competition has been remarkable. Their story deserves respect. The evidence suggests Chelsea will win this match convincingly. But in football, evidence and outcomes do not always align, and that is precisely why the pressure on this squad is so palpable. Here is what I want to leave you with today, because this is the part of the analysis that matters most. Chelsea Football Club are not a club in crisis in the traditional sense. The infrastructure is there, the ownership is invested, the talent in the squad is real, as Joao Pedro's numbers and Shearer's recognition confirm. The transfer strategy, evidenced by the Barco deal beating Bayern Munich, shows genuine ambition and intelligence in the market. But there is a disconnect between potential and performance that this week must begin to close. 4 defeats in a row, the Champions League gone, the Premier League squeezed, and a disciplinary action against one of their most high-profile players in the middle of it all. The Fernandez situation is the most complex element here. The evidence does not tell us whether he leaves this summer. It tells us that his relationship with the club is under serious strain, that he has been publicly sanctioned, that Chelsea have already moved in the market to address the midfield regardless of his decision. The picture is not simple, and anyone telling you it is simple is not giving you the full analysis. What this week offers Chelsea is clarity. Win the Cup quarter-final convincingly and the narrative shifts. Win it with Pedro in dominant form and confidence returns. Use the momentum to stabilise the Premier League campaign over the remaining 7 games, and the season can still be called a qualified success. Lose it and the pressure on Rosenior becomes existential. The questions about the squad's mentality, about the standards at the club, about whether this group has the resilience to respond under pressure. All of those questions amplify to a level that becomes very difficult to manage. The situation is that Chelsea have reached a moment where results must speak. Analysis can explain context. It can identify the reasons, it can map the decisions, but at some point, the players have to perform, the manager has to get results, and the club has to demonstrate that the investment and the planning and the ambition are translating into outcomes on the pitch. Port Vale await. Valentin Barco is on his way in June. Enzo Fernandez's future hangs in the balance. Rosenior'S stands at the edge of something that could either define the early part of his Chelsea tenure or seriously damage it. The next few weeks will tell us more about this Chelsea Football Club than the previous few months have, and Maya on Chelsea will be here for every moment of it. If this kind of deep, precise, honest analysis is what you come here for, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment below with your thoughts on the Fernandez situation, and share this video with every Chelsea supporter you know. We are building something here, and every single one of you is part of it. This is Maya on Chelsea. See you at the next one.